Let's talk about Canada, the US's reliable if sometimes overlooked neighbor. For generations, the border has been a symbol of peace and partnership, a place where business and friendship flowed freely. Most Americans rarely gave it a second thought, trusting that things would always stay calm and predictable. For decades, the relationship was steady, even dull. Trade agreements were signed, disputes were quietly settled, and both countries prospered from their close ties. Then Donald Trump arrived and suddenly, everything was on fire. The old rules no longer applied, and the world's longest peaceful border became a flashpoint. As of September 22, 2025, we're on the brink of a trade war. Headlines blare warnings, and the mood on both sides of the border is tense. Trump's threat? A sweeping 35% tariff on all Canadian goods. That's not just a number, it's a shockwave through every industry that relies on cross-border trade. This isn't just tough talk, it's economic brinkmanship. Markets are jittery, and business leaders are scrambling to understand what comes next. The August 1st deadline passed, but the threat lingers, freezing investment and rattling nerves on both sides of the border. Projects are paused, and plans are put on hold. Trump's approach is blunt. Canada will just pay tariffs. There's no room for compromise, no hint of negotiation. It's not negotiation, it's a sledgehammer. The uncertainty is paralyzing. Every day, business owners wake up wondering if today is the day everything changes. Canadian businesses can't plan, invest, or hire when the rules might change overnight. The risk is simply too high and the future too murky. Quebec's premier says private investment is frozen. Across the country, leaders are sounding the alarm. It's economic paralysis by tweet. One message can send markets tumbling and businesses scrambling to react. Canada may be polite, but it's not a pushover. The country is rallying, determined to defend its interests and its workers. This is a country that knows how to take a hit and hit back. Canadians are bracing for a fight, and they're not backing down. The US and Canada have one of the world's most integrated economies. Threatening it is reckless. Every factory, every farm, every family that depends on trade is now at risk. Businesses are stuck, waiting to see if the tariff hammer will fall. The uncertainty is costing real money and real jobs. It's a terrible way to run two economies. The longer this drags on, the more damage is done to trust, investment, and livelihoods. The stakes? Two nations, millions of jobs, and a partnership on the edge. The world is watching to see who blinks first and what the future holds for this vital relationship. At the heart of this dispute, Canadian milk. Canada's dairy supply management system uses quotas and high tariffs, up to 250%, to protect its farmers. For American dairy producers, this is infuriating. They see a huge market next door blocked by a wall of tariffs. Trump seized on this, painting American farmers as victims of Canadian protectionism. But for Canadians, supply management is about stability and supporting local communities, even if it means higher prices for milk and cheese. It's a trade-off most Canadians accept. Trump's attacks aren't just about trade, they're about a core part of Canada's economic identity. Dismantling supply management isn't on the table for Canada, no matter how loud the shouting gets. This isn't just a policy fight, it's a clash of values, and neither side is backing down. Trump's response to Canada's dairy tariffs? Threaten to match them, dollar for dollar? It's a dramatic gesture, but economically absurd. The US economy dwarfs Canada's. A tariff war would hit both, but Canada harder. The two economies are deeply intertwined. Tariffs on one product ripple through supply chains, hurting businesses on both sides. Trump's negotiators, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, have taken a chaotic, one-sided approach. Canada hasn't even received a clear list of US demands, just a barrage of grievances. The focus on dairy is political theater. It's simple, emotional, and easy to sell to voters. But the US has its own farm protections too, details conveniently ignored. For Trump, shouting about unfair milk tariffs makes for great headlines. The real cost? Economic pain for both countries. And the negotiations remain stuck in a loop. Canada's response? It's the classic Canadian approach. Polite, measured, but unmistakably firm. When faced with pressure, Canada doesn't shout or grandstand. Instead, it stands its ground with a quiet confidence that's become its trademark on the world stage. Prime Minister Mark Carney has made it clear, Canada will defend its workers and only sign a deal that's right for the country. He's been unwavering in his message, emphasizing that Canadian interests come first, and that no amount of external pressure will force Canada into a bad agreement. Behind the scenes, Canada's strategy is patience. listening, taking notes, and refusing to be bullied. Canadian negotiators are known for their thoroughness, carefully weighing every word and every offer, making sure nothing slips through the cracks. This frustrates the US side, which is used to getting its way quickly. But Canada is betting that reason, persistence, and a steady hand will outlast bluster and threats. The political reaction in Canada is united. Across party lines, politicians are putting aside their differences to present a common front. Even opposition leaders and provincial premiers agree. The tariff threats are an attack on the whole country, not just one party or region. This rare unity sends a powerful message to the world. In fact, President Trump has done what few could: unite Canadian politicians across the spectrum from left to right, urban to rural. Canada isn't just absorbing the blows, it's responding with resolve, showing that it won't be intimidated or pushed around. In past disputes, it's retaliated with targeted tariffs on U.S. goods, everything from steel to Kentucky whiskey. These measures are carefully chosen to send a message without escalating the conflict unnecessarily. The message is clear: if you punch us, we punch back. Canada's response is measured, but it's also unmistakably tough. Canadian retaliation is calculated to hurt politically sensitive U.S. industries, putting pressure where it's most likely to be felt by American decision-makers. Trade wars have casualties on both sides, and Canada is making sure the U.S. knows it. The economic pain isn't one-sided, and both countries have a lot to lose. This is a two-way street. Trade relationships are built on mutual respect and benefit, not threats and intimidation. And Canada won't be pushed around. In the face of adversity, Canadians stand together, firm, polite, and ready to defend their interests. Dairy is just the start. The Trump administration's complaints about Canada are a grab bag: banking access, Quebec's language laws, plastics regulations, even Arctic defense. The U.S. is demanding everything from looser environmental rules to more cooperation on missile defense. The approach is scattershot: one day it's milk, the next it's software language requirements, then fentanyl. This chaos keeps Canada off balance, making negotiation nearly impossible. The goal? Exhaust Canada into concessions. Compared to talks with Mexico, the U.S. approach with Canada is more personal, more vindictive. Trump sees Canada as having taken advantage of the U.S., a grudge dating back to the USMCA negotiations. This isn't just about economics, it's about bruised egos and political payback. The result? Confusion, frustration, and a relationship under strain, and no end in sight. The U.S.-Canada trade relationship is massive, over $750 billion in goods and services in 2024. Canada is the U.S.'s biggest export market, supporting millions of American jobs. Threatening a 35% tariff is like a shopkeeper banning his best customer for complaining about milk prices. The USMCA, Trump's own deal, is up for review in 2026, raising the stakes even higher. Trump's tariffs aren't just threats. Many are already in place, on steel, aluminum, cars, and now copper. The 35% tariff would be the nuclear option, risking all-out economic war. Trump's offhand jokes about Canada as the 51st state only add insult, showing a lack of respect for Canadian sovereignty. This isn't just a trade spat, it's a fight over the future of the U.S.-Canada partnership. The underlying message: comply, or else. And that's a dangerous way to treat your closest ally. A trade war between the United States and Canada would be economic self-sabotage for both countries, undermining decades of cooperation and shared prosperity. The close relationship that has fueled growth on both sides of the border could quickly unravel, with consequences that reach far beyond just dollars and cents. Nearly $2 billion in goods cross the border daily, making this one of the world's busiest and most important trade corridors. Every day, thousands of trucks, trains, and ships move products that keep both economies running. Disruptions would devastate industries, especially autos, where parts cross the border multiple times before a single car is finished. The ripple effects would be felt in steel, agriculture, and technology as well. A 35% tariff would shatter supply chains, causing layoffs in Michigan and Ontario alike. Factories could close, and communities that depend on cross-border trade would face economic hardship. The uncertainty is already chilling investment, as businesses hesitate to expand or hire in the face of unpredictable policies. Companies can't plan when the rules might change overnight. Long-term projects are put on hold, and innovation slows as risk increases. For Americans, tariffs mean higher prices on lumber, oil, car parts, even food. Everyday essentials become more expensive, straining household budgets. The costs would hit consumers, not just governments. Families and small businesses would feel the squeeze, with less money to spend elsewhere. For Canada, the stakes are existential. 75% of its exports go to the US. Losing access to that market would be a national crisis, threatening jobs and livelihoods across the country. A tariff could trigger a recession, with falling stock prices, business closures, and rising unemployment. That's why Canada is fighting back, diversifying trade, and preparing for a less reliable neighbor. New partnerships with Europe and Asia are being explored to reduce dependence on the US. Capitulation would mean sacrificing economic sovereignty. Canadians are determined to protect their interests even if it means taking a stand. Both sides are bracing for the worst, hoping for the best. Workers, families, and leaders are all watching events unfold with growing anxiety, but trust is eroding fast, and the sense of partnership is fading with every new threat and countermeasure, and the damage could last for years, leaving scars on both economies that may take a generation to heal. To justify tariffs, Trump has linked them to the fight against fentanyl smuggling from Canada. The facts? In 2024, just 43 pounds of fentanyl were seized at the northern border, 0.2% of the total. The real flow is from Mexico. Using the opioid crisis as a pretext for tariffs is cynical and misleading. Canada has responded seriously, appointing a fentanyl czar and boosting border security. But these efforts are ignored because the fentanyl argument is just a smokescreen. This tactic, using non-trade issues to justify tariffs, undermines trust and the global trading system. If any country can invent a pretext for tariffs, the rules collapse. It's a dangerous precedent, poisoning international relations. The fentanyl fallacy isn't just a lie, it's corrosive to diplomacy, and it's all for the sake of a trade fight. So where do we go from here? As of late September 2025, the US and Canada are locked in a tense standoff. The 35% tariff hasn't been imposed, yet. Both sides are waiting for the other to blink. The path forward, either a catastrophic trade war or a negotiated de-escalation. Brinkmanship means more threats, more chaos, and the risk of economic disaster. A breakthrough would require real negotiation, clear demands, honest compromise, and dropping the distractions. Canada is open to talks but won't bow to threats. The future of the world's largest trading relationship hangs in the balance. Will mutual interest win out over political rage? The choice is America's. For the sake of both nations, let's hope reason prevails.